Well, I'm going to start with a song. And as we begin each session, I just want us to have fun singing this. So it goes like this. Let everyone meet their vine and fig tree, live in peace and unafraid. Can you join me? Let everyone meet their vine and fig tree, live in peace and unafraid. Let everyone meet their vine and fig tree, live in peace and unafraid. Then it goes like this. Let everyone, and into plowshares turn their swords, and into plowshares turn their swords. Nations shall learn war no more, and into plowshares turn their swords. Nations shall learn war no more. I want you to draw a picture. I want you to take 1 minute and draw a picture of a home that you lived in at some point in your life. Just quickly draw. You only have 1 minute to do this. Possible for your family to live in financially. So, thank you. So, it's important, part of what makes housing happen are relationships. There's nothing more important than relationships. And you'll hear that throughout the day. And so we're going to start by giving you a chance to build a relationship with a person right next to you. So I'm going to explain how we're doing this. When you talk for 1 minute about what made this home affordable to you, you'll get 1 minute and then you'll switch, and then the next person will share what made the home affordable for them. And in the process of doing this, you need to really listen. So a big part of relationships is really hearing. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a good reason, right? It's a lot harder to listen sometimes than it is to really talk. And so you need to pay attention, listen to what you're hearing, because you're going to share. It may have a chance to share, some of you, not everyone, what you heard, okay? So go ahead and start in with just one person right next to you. Share what made that home affordable. Thank you.
Something, there's nothing more important than relationships. That's what makes housing affordable.
That's what makes housing happen.
That's what makes housing happen.
Okay, it is time to switch. Please take 1 minute and share. Make sure the other person you're speaking to has a chance to share. Please switch. Thank you. Time is up. Time is up. So I'd like for you to just a few of you share what you heard. So just one sentence. Essentially, what was it that made that house affordable? Anyone? Yes.
Both my parents were. They worked a shift so that we would never be alone. So one worked during the day and one worked during the night.
And I can't see your name, but I appreciate. Liz. Okay, Liz said both parents worked. How many of you had that situation where both parents worked? Yeah. Oftentimes to make housing happen, you need two parents, both working. So that's one idea, and if that's what you heard, you can't repeat that idea. So if there's another idea, yes, right over here.
Family members help purchase the house or give a down payment.
Oh, so family members help with the down payment. What's your first name? Pardon me? Ann. Thank you, Ann. How many of you have family members that helped you with a down payment? Me too. Me too. Thank you, Ann. Another new idea right here.
I heard from David about the relationship. He was raised on a farm, and everyone coming together to support one another and making that possible.
Wow. Okay. So anyone else here live on a farm and a relationship that, yeah, with family members? Yeah, it makes all the difference, doesn't it? Okay. Thank you. Over here.
We have our families immigrant from other towns, and someone helped them.
Oh, I love this concept. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So a lot of cultures, we have a lot to learn. I believe God brings immigrants to our nation to teach us, because we've lost so many core values in this country. And so this whole concept of coming together and everyone contributing to help one family member, it's a beautiful concept. Thank you. Anyone else that experienced that? Yeah. As I know a friend that's how they got their down payment. All their family members contributed. It was great. Over here.
I heard about loans through banks and government programs like veterans programs to help purchase a home. So there's some policy and programs available that have also.
Okay, awesome. And what's your first name again?
Heather.
Heather, okay, and Beatriz, yes. So Heather says that their family was able to do loans, or what she heard was different special loans that made homes affordable. How many of you were able to access that? And that was a similar story. Okay, thank you. Another new idea, Tina.
Housing costs are so much, for my family, less expensive, so it's about a fourth to a third of your income you could spend on housing. So they saved up and they were able to come up with a down payment, but their monthly payments were about a fourth of their family income at the time.
So that, because they came up with a down payment?
Well, because the house itself didn't cost.
So the house was cheaper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Much cheaper.
Much
The
cheaper.
house was like less than $20,000 today. It's
Yeah.
$100,000.
Yeah. So I know one thing about Tina and John. They lived in a home not too far from me in Pasadena, and I think your house was pre-engineered, and so that was brought in a truck from Canada. So sometimes there's some kind of a pre-manufactured or panelized or some kind of a home that's been built elsewhere that helps make it affordable. We could go on and on with stories of what made our homes affordable. I'm going to share with you just a little bit about my own story, and maybe some of you can resonate with this. My family built their first house. My mom and dad built it when they were going to college. They were at Fullerton College. My grandparents had some land. They came in 1906 to Orange County and started buying up orange groves, or buying up land and planting orange groves. And so that's part of the reason it's called Orange County. That's when my grandparents gave my dad a little piece of land, and when he and my mom met, they started building a house together. So sometimes we get to do sweat equity, where we put some of our own time into building the home, and that's part of what made the home affordable for them. Also, the freeway came through. It just broke my mom's heart. And there's a little Imperial Highway freeway that came through, and they bought up that house, and it was destroyed. So my mom cried buckets over that one. So many places in our country, especially in areas where African Americans live, freeways have come through and destroyed those communities. So I experienced that with my own family. In college, I was able to afford housing because I had roommates, lots of them. One place I had 6 roommates. So we were able to divide that cost, and it really helped make that house affordable. I moved to Mexico I was a missionary with a group called Food for the Hungry. We did vocational training, had a high school that we started there. It was an amazing experience. I was there for 4 years, and I lived in a van. And I loved it. It was pretty crazy. Now, I was kind of, quote, homeless by choice. I don't know if you even call it homeless, but it worked out perfect for me. I slept outside on a cot, and I put my clothes inside the van. At night, there were so many bugs that I couldn't even read. I had my little lamp, and it would attract all those bugs. So I started drawing pictures of the bugs, and I noticed there was a close correlation between these interesting bugs and the art in the Mexican art. And I thought, wow, that's cool, you know. So I'm one of these crazy people that's willing to do things that are pretty far outside the box from what most people might be willing to do. But we have a tremendous problem with people homeless today, many of them resorting to live in their vehicles. That's one of the fastest growing populations right now. And so that's something that I'm hoping and praying by the end of this day, there will be some people here that God will touch to want to address that. Because some very clear, specific ways that we can help make a big difference around that. Then after college, I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. It's very interesting at my alma mater. They've done some very creative things to make housing affordable for their faculty. This is Harvard, Westmont, Cal State Channel Islands. Many schools are now catching on to this concept of building homes for their employees. So they are able to purchase the home but not the land. The land stays with the institution. And so can you imagine if you just buy the home, it's a whole lot more affordable, right? Without purchasing the land. And so they have a program there where faculty members can buy homes, and after a period of time, when they're done, it's a resale formula that makes it possible to make that home affordable for the next purchaser. So you're going to build some equity. It's not the same as renting, but you're not going to get full equity when you sell that to the next purchaser. So I took courses at Fuller. I already had a seminary degree from Denver Seminary, but I was really at a place in my life, and when I, keep wanting to grab that. When I lived in Mexico, I really burned myself out. I overworked. How many of you love to work? Yeah. I think many overachievers in this room, you know. And so you'd think I would learn how to relax living in Mexico, but there was a part of me, this very German part of me, that just loves to work. And so I burned myself out. I came back. The city of Pasadena really, historically, is a city of healing. It's a place where people came to heal. And that's what God did for me in Pasadena. I took courses at Fuller, kind of getting back into the academics. I made sure I took courses in the School of Theology, School of Psychology, School of Intercultural Studies. By doing that, and also a roommate who said, Jill, I think you're pretty dyslexic. And I said, you're kidding. She goes, no, I just heard a program. It describes you really well. I go, wow, that's interesting. So I got tested. And it was very important for me during that time at Fuller to not only heal, but to get to know who I was. And taking classes, I didn't think of myself as being smart because of my dyslexic ways. There was a class called Leadership Emergence Patterns by Bobby Clinton, and I knew it was one of the hardest courses in the whole school. Anyone here take that class? An amazing course. And I thought, you know, I'm going to take it credit, no credit. I'm so afraid I might fail, you know. I ended up getting an A in this class. So all these things God was teaching me who I was. And affirming that person that God made, and being able to heal and begin to find that balance again after being so burned out. Pasadena was really important for that. But what I want to say about Pasadena, I moved into the Harambe Center. How many of you know the Harambe Center? I lived and worked there with Dr. John Perkins, who's been one of my mentors forever, probably 40 years now. And I've intentionally submitted myself under the leadership of African Americans throughout my life, or at least for the last 50 years of my life, because I feel like there's so much that me as a white person has to learn from people who have suffered and struggled that I really have limited experience around. And so I lived and worked with Dr. Perkins. It was an amazing experience with he and his wife living there. And during that time, I lived in a very, there was drug deals all the time. It was just a mess. And at that point, it was just 91, right around there. And God began to call me. I began to heal, began to be able to find that balance, and begin to see the Spirit of God just stir in my life. And I knew that I needed to find a place of stability. I had had so many roommates. I had moved in so many places. I rode my bike all around Northwest Pasadena, and I drool over these wonderful bungalow homes. I'm going, I want that one. No, I want that one. And I said to my dad one day, I said, you know, I don't think it's possible that I could ever buy a house on a missionary salary, but it'd be so cool to have the stability of a home, to find that sense of emotional balance I needed in my life. And he says, oh, you can do that. And I go, no, I can't. I don't have the money. He says, I'm going to help you. So my parents each gave me $20,000, and what I needed was $40,000 for a down payment. Now, I moved into an African-American neighborhood. Not one of my African-American neighbors had parents that could do that for them. And so I felt incredibly privileged. And because I was so privileged, I really wanted to learn from my neighbors and be able to give back to what I've been given. As I improved my property values, I began to see my neighbors move out. I moved in to be a blessing, not to push property values up. My neighbor next door, she goes, oh, I'm so glad you're fixing up this house, Jill. My property values are just increasing. And I go, you know, that's not good news. That's just not good news. Because I didn't move here to push people out. So it broke my heart. It just broke my heart. And so I started an after-school program called STARS, and I learned a lot at the Harambe Center how to do this. So this was at Lake Avenue Church, a 5,000-member church, and I thought, how do I get this church that seems to be pretty isolated from their neighborhood where they are, involved in a meaningful way with that community? And that's when I said, God, what is it you want to do? And I got a team together, and we began to dream, and what would that be? A church with 5,000 members, highly educated, and I thought, let's do an after-school program. But we can't have it where we have this big white church helping this poor immigrant community. We've got to do it so it's mutually beneficial. So in our mission, we had the word marriage. So the idea of marriage is, at least should be, mutually beneficial, long-term, and authentic. So if you work with inner city kids and they don't see that you're authentic, they'll be out of there in a second. So how do you do that? So we created a program where even the tutors were being evaluated by the students. So it was mutual growth, mutual development, and character building. And God has honored that program because it was built on a solid relationship of relationships. What I did in that community, I spent over 100 hours going into those homes around the church, just knocking on doors, listening, and asking if I could pray with families. I saw tears in the eyes of these women. They'd say, you know, Catholic, no, you're not welcome here. And they'd say, so what? But it was confusing to them. They'd never seen someone from that church come and show interest in them. I said, you know, it's just about Jesus. You know, we're going to have this after-school program. And first we started with a vacation Bible school, and they said, well, I think I can deal with Jesus. You know? And so we prayed, and I said, can we enroll your kids? They go, oh, sure, you know. And I said, do you know anyone else I could talk to? So it just led from one person to the next. And that's where we built the foundation of relationships to start the STARS program. Driving these kids to and from the program, I began to notice that some of these kids were dropping out. They were dropping out of high school. And I said, what's going on? You're coming to our program, but you're not going to school anymore. He says, no, I have to work. I go, you have to work? Yeah, we can't afford rent, you know? And I said, wow. So others, they said, well, why are you dropping out? Well, because I have to babysit so my parents can work. We can't afford rent. So we had built years of relationships with these kids, but the problem was we wanted to keep a relationship long term, and the only way we could do that is to keep them in our city because their apartments were being sold from underneath of them. Their landlords were flipping their apartment buildings. So I learned about affordable housing. There's a little place on Garfield called Agape Court. And I thought, you know, what's this affordable housing? This is interesting. I've never heard of this stuff, you know? So they had openings. I started moving families in there. And those families that I moved in there, all those kids have gone to college and are doing fabulously because the parents were only paying a third of their income, and they had time for their kids. And so it was amazing stuff. They had a little after-school program in there. So I thought, how do we get more of this? How do we get more of this amazing stuff? So that's when I started doing some advocacy work in the city to look at how to create sites and get more housing that's affordable. I also started doing research. I had done research all across the country on how to have one of the best after-school programs possible. But I couldn't help but notice in all these churches I visited across the country, they also had housing ministries. So that's when I put together this book. And it talks about all different churches, all different, you know, every chapter is a different model of how to create affordability and a different denomination. It's very broad-based. So this book now is being used on campuses across our country as a text. I just learned that this is also being used in USC in the real estate department. I'm blown away by it. So that's my story.